Happy Arvo. Thank you for joining me today. So 3 different people submitted this video through my form, which you can find down below. The Bombing of Darwin, which I think will be super interesting because I didn't even realize Australia was attacked during World War II up until, I started making these videos reacting to Australia. And I didn't know until just now that it was Darwin, apparently, that took a brunt of the attack, I guess. I don't know. I'm about to learn. But let's just watch.
First Nations TV, your official Bombing of Darwin TV station, remembers the day that war came to the territory. February 19th, 1942.
Holy crap.
The Bombing of Darwin.
Dr. Tom Lewis.
Things were going very, very badly. We lost a lot of people in 1942, a lot of ships, a lot of aircraft, and almost we're on what they call the back foot in defence terms. And after that, you take another step back, and that's the beginning of the end. No, there wasn't a plan for an immediate
Like your defenses are being pushed back.
invasion at first.
Once that starts, I guess that's a bad sign.
It had been debated by the Japanese High Command, and it was thought that it would be far too expensive in terms of troops needed to deploy against Australia. But if you can succeed in the vast strategic aim, which is to cut Australia off from America, then we have nobody left who is our big and powerful friend. The Japanese High Command still wanted to close Darwin down as a going concern. You don't want this big port with runways and oil tanks and infrastructure and so on to your south as you're hoping to conquer the world in Southeast Asia.
I guess as a strategic area, like Australia is very, very good place to have.
So they decided we'll have another go, and this time we'll do it with the aircraft carriers. And they brought up 4 of the aircraft carriers that had attacked Pearl Harbor, and they positioned themselves to the northwest of Darwin.
Look at
on
that.
the 18th. And on the 19th, they flew off 188 aircraft, and they made their way to Darwin. They attacked down the Apsley Strait between the Tiwi Islands. It's a nice navigational marker if you're navigating by reference to the ground, which is what you're doing in those days. Radio silence was kept. 9 of the Zero fighters, 36 escorting Zeros, were detached to strafe an aircraft on Bathurst Island. And they went down and shot that up and set fire to it. And they hit a bloke called Father McGrath, who was broadcasting a warning at the same time. The rest of the aircraft went towards Darwin, and the plan was to cross the coast.
Is that like recorded? They hit a dude who was broadcasting a warning?
The west of Darwin and attack from the south in a big circle. It's a great idea because you're coming out of the sun, you've got the element of surprise, and you've got one bomb run over the target with your bombers. The 9 Zeros that attacked Bathurst Island cut the corner, and they actually arrived early and shot up the boom net. They knew that they weren't supposed to attack the town, which is about 10 kilometres away from the net that stretched across the harbour at East Point.
A literal net?
The big attack went home with Cape bombers bombing from high level, so they've just got one bomb and they release it. It's a 3-man single-engine aircraft. They attacked the wharf, the town itself, shipping in the harbour was bombed at the same time. As they leave, the Val dive bombers come in and they attack at an angle with a single bomb, 2-man aircraft, and they're attacking shipping in the harbour. And the 36 Zero fighters are there to keep us honest, us being the allies at the time, all by now attacking from the ground with their anti-aircraft fire. There were 10 Kitty Hawk fighters that had a go at defending against the Zeros, and 9 of them were shot down very promptly, and the other one flew away. And then the Val dive bombers have got the field for themselves. It was a short, sharp raid. The most potent warship sunk was USS Peary, lost with 88 lives. All up.
88 lives? My God.
With a couple of ships outside the harbour as well, they sank a...
I mean, at the beginning, I saw a paper that said 15 dead, so many wounded. I was thinking, okay, that's extremely sad, but that's not a lot. But 88, it's a lot more.
11 ships on the day, destroyed 30 aircraft, and killed 236 people.
What?
And then they flew away. The whole attack lasts about 20 minutes,
Holy
I suppose.
This is no
and,
joke.
They were replaced by another raid at quarter to 12, and that was 2 flights of 27 bombers each. So it's 56 aircraft coming in and attacking the runways near Darwin. This time there was no fighter opposition from us at all, and they bombed very effectively and flew away, leaving the whole place destroyed pretty much, very heavy damage. And that's the beginning of the air war that enveloped Northern Australia for the next 2 years.
2 years.
What had happened in Darwin was, starting in December.
This is crazy. I mean, it's so much more significant than what happened in the United States, you know? That was just one day at Pearl Harbor. 2 years of this.
You had mass evacuations, particularly of women and children, and not what they call non-combatants. So you did find some women stayed on. For example, the post office, when it was hit, had largely female staff, and most of them died.
Wow. This is so extremely sad. Jesus, I didn't know about this.
But they're considered essential workers. You've got to have communications. You did find that most of the Aboriginal people have been evacuated out of the Darwin area, except for the 2.
I guess there's a large Aboriginal population in Darwin, because at the beginning it said, you know, about Aboriginal people.
The islands, 2 islanders refused to go, and they were still there when the Japanese arrived. I said earlier, 90 fighters came down and sprayed the airstrip there, which was near at that time Father McGrath's hut, which is near the church. The airstrip now has been moved. So they were immediately under attack, and although Matthias, for example, who captured Toyoshima, the first Japanese fighter pilot shot down, that was on Melville Island. There were other Japanese who were shot down and recovered by the Tiwi Islanders. You also found a terrific Aboriginal involvement in places like Adelaide River, where a lot of them signed up to work for the army. So you could work for the army as a civilian and get paid and so on, and they were raising crops there. There was also a field hospital. You also found places like Milingimbi, for example.
I'm going to be honest, I'm sure I'm missing a few notable things this guy is saying. He's spitting so many facts. This guy knows this like he was there.
One stage had a squadron, a Spitfire squadron, I think it was, and there were Japanese people who were shot down there, Japanese aircrew, who were recovered by local Aboriginal tribesmen, who found them on a beach and said, right, I know you're the enemy, come with me, and held them up with either a fishing spear or a rifle or whatever. And so there were Japanese captured there as well. There's a few legends that there's some Japanese aircrew that didn't actually make it. They were simply killed by the local Aboriginal people who recognised them as enemy airmen, and that's the end of you. We've been able to revise
Damn. They don't mess around,
the attacks numbers, and it came out at 208. So 208 enemy air missions over Northern Australia in World War II. That goes from Exmouth in Western Australia to Townsville in Queensland. 77 raids, to answer your question, against the Northern Territory. It was previously thought there were 64, but it's in fact 77. The Japanese attacked us with 3 aircraft from the carriers. So it's a Kate high-level bomber, the Val dive bomber, and the Zero. But the Kate and the Val never came back. It's the only time they ever attacked Australia. After that, it's basically Zeros, twin-engine Betty bombers, big heavy thing, and Diners, which are high-speed recon twin-engine aircraft. So good aircraft, but at the end of the war they were being thoroughly outclassed. There's actually an account where the AA gunners went into action. This is the big 3.7.
Artificial intelligence gunners? I'm just kidding. I mean, this guy knows so much about this military stuff. It's very impressive to hear him talk about it, but it's going over my head. All these different, the Kates and this and the twin engine and
7-inch
AI.
guns, some of them on the Darwin Oval, which is where the Esplanade, the Cenotaph now is. There was a gun site just there. They went into action without being told. They saw the enemy bombers, they saw the bombs start coming out, and they started firing. And in fact, one bloke, Jack Mulholland, who was on one of those guns, he said air shells went up as their bombs came down, and then the aircraft siren sounded, the air raid warning sounded about 30 seconds later.
We fired on them with no effect. The first raid lasted about 45 minutes.
Wow, okay, now we got the real deal talking right here. This is him. This is the guy who was just talking about, Jack Mulholland.
B2 perhaps was around about 45 minutes. When the high-level bombers had done their carpet bombing of the town and the aerodrome, They moved out, and the fighters and dive bombers moved in, and they attacked the ships. And the battle then was between the ships and the Japanese Air Force.
I don't know why. There's something interesting about seeing like a World War II Australian vet with that thick Australian accent. It's just like I hadn't considered that previously. That there's these guys, these Australian guys, who just like here. There's so many vets here in America. I just haven't seen an Australian man be a World War II vet. It's cool to see one.
I saw the Peary go down, and the chap in the front of it was still firing. I'm pretty sure it went down stern first. And the chap in the front of the Peary was still firing his gun as he went under the ocean.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Out on the harbour, you had, on the day the Japanese attacked, you had
What a badass that guy is.
56 ships. And they all started opening up with everything they had. So if you're a warship, that's your job. And if you're a freighter, quite often they're defensively armed. They've got some light armament on them, but your job is to get out there and start firing. We were defended by 10 US Army aircraft. The entire Air Force of Australia was over in Europe fighting the Germans and the Italians.
Oh, wow.
And you can say that's bad planning, and it is. There should have been Spitfires fighting here.
So you guys had all your airships over there fighting elsewhere, but you had some backup American planes. That's good.
This is 1942, and there's no Spitfires or Hurricanes defending Darwin. What's going on? There's only 10 Kitty Hawk fighters of the US Army Air Force, and they're there by accident. They were going to Java and turned back from bad weather and came back and were just in the right place at the right time.
Oh, thank God.
4 of them died. 9 of them were shot down.
9 were shot down and only 4 died. I'm kind of impressed only 4 died. What do? Hit the evacuation button? Like, I'm serious. How do you survive getting shot down?
Darwin on the 19th of February 1942 was the first time Americans and Australians fight together in World War II.
Oh, that's cool.
It was here. That it was shoulder to shoulder with the guys who are now the big alliance for us, because
that's awesome.
Britain was almost falling. The Darwin Commemoration follows a fairly set pattern.
I don't know why I got chills just then thinking about the Australians and the Americans fighting shoulder to shoulder in World War II.
Now, well, it always starts at 9:58. 9:58 is when the first bombs fell. The Darwin Commemoration, you get the air raid siren. You get the attack by the ground forces, so there's soldiers that are firing guns. They're not the same as the 3.7. If you want to see those, they're out at East Point.
This is cool.
They're a big, heavy gun with a big barrel, and they fire about...
Damn! Oh my God, imagine being that guy in control of this thing.
6
Don't get in his way.
rounds a minute. But you have people firing machine guns, you have people firing rifles and so on. So we try and simulate a bit of that.
I can't imagine.
The commemoration, though nothing simulates an attack by 188 enemy aircraft. There's usually a fly past. There's a Harvard trainer in Darwin.
This would be a cool thing to go see.
Which is a World War II training aircraft. It gives you a bit of an idea, but it flies low and slow. We usually get overflights by Orions or Hornets or things like that. But to imagine the sky filled full of aircraft coming towards you is very hard. We don't really simulate that. It's a very unusual place, Darwin, in that it was so heavily attacked. It's the only government house in Australia to be attacked by the enemy. It's a funny thing to be surrounded by the place where we first fought in Australia. It's the biggest attack ever made on Australia in terms of air attack. And the loss of life on the day, 236 people, is
236 on that day.
Is enormous. And that was just the first of 77 raids on the territory.
Wow. Damn. That was very insightful. Holy crap, I didn't realize it was that scale. Well, obviously, massive respect to those World War II veterans in Australia and to the lives that were lost. That is fascinating. I could watch that all day about, I mean, this guy, wow, this Dr. Tom Lewis, he spoke fast and he knew a lot of facts. That was really interesting. Thank you for suggesting that, and thank you for watching. And I hope you have a fantastic day. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow. I hear Jace. I don't know what he's trying to say. Bye.